Welcome to the Goody Show. Today we are dealing with faith and mental health. This is the second part of our two-part series, and today we will be interviewing Mustafa Poonawalla of the Islamic faith. Yesterday we interviewed Reverend Dr. Peter French of the Anglican faith. So we are going to have a new perspective. Remember that our basic assumption is that religion will positively benefit mental health, although we need to identify more specifically how religion promotes, facilitates mental health. For too long there's been a divide between faith and mental health, with mental illness being viewed as a moral or spiritual failing, and spirituality as such being unscientific. We've spent too much time in silos where instead we could be finding strength and healing through partnership. Faith and mental health are not antithetical to each other. In fact, they are complementary. After all, mental health is health, and that includes our whole health, our physical health, our mental health, and our spiritual health. Faith can help us in many ways that traditional treatments can't. Faith is a powerful thing. Faith can help us make sense of our suffering. Faith can give us strength to persevere through hardship. Faith can help us connect us with a community who cares. Now, Mustafa is representing the Dawoodi Bohras, who are a Muslim community living in over 40 countries across the world. Guided by their leader, Dr. Syed Musafdal Saifuddin, Bohras are generally well-educated business people and qualified professionals in various fields. With a distinctive culture, they strive to embrace modernity while staying true to their traditions and continue to be active, peaceful and law-abiding citizens dedicated to the betterment of all humanity. Faith in religion can potentially benefit mental health in many ways. The Dawoodi Bohras were instrumental in the Mental Health Foundation Australia's meal delivery program, which delivered over 150,000 meals during our COVID pandemic. And those meals were delivered throughout Victoria, for which I want to thank you, Mustafa. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So I'll begin with the proposition. Faith is belief without evidence, or at least evidence as understood by science. What are your thoughts about faith as being without evidence?
Firstly, thank you, Jim, for having me on the show. So basically, in every faith, people trust somebody or someone, even if they don't have a tangible evidence or a logical, it could be a logical certainty. Now, even after that, people don't see faith and science as an inherently incompatible. So if you go back to history, and we have seen a lot of scientists who are quite religious and great thinkers also in science. So if you take an example of Isaac Newton, who was quite religious, and plus he did scientific pursuits. Now his pursuits, people like him took these pursuits as a mean for understanding the beauty and the order of the creation that has been created by a divine power. So in that way, they believe that faith encouraged them to go and take science as a means of understanding all these areas. Now again, coming back to, that was history, again coming back to past, and present, and if I'm talking about the Dawoodi Bohra community, we have a lot of scientists who are also devoted to the faith. So faith and science, again coming to the point, are not completely inherently incompatible.
Good, thank you. Now, faith communities can offer a built-in social support system where individuals can gain friendships and support. Do you see this as manifest in your communities?
Yes, definitely. Communities like Dawoodi Bohras are kind of close-knit, and they have a lot of social programs. And again, we normally have those programs within our Bohra Masjid or the mosque, and similar programs are there in other religious institutions like temples, churches, synagogues, and etc. So these kind of social gatherings give that support to the community. Now, people with a common belief or religious values gather over there, they meet each other, and through that programs, they support the wider community. Now, if I just take a couple of examples from my community and what we do is, I'll just speak about two programs. One is called Khabargiri in the Indian language, which is just looking after or asking after. And another one is for the elders. Now, the first program of the Khabargiri or looking after is basically reaching out to the less fortunate within the community and trying to support them, help them in the best way we can. And now regarding the elders program, some of the elders, they do have their own house, or sometimes they are living with their children who are taking care of them. Now, even besides that, we try to bring those elders with the next generation. It's not their children, but the grandchildren. And it's not just their grandchildren. We try to bring the elders of the community, plus we try to bring the young teenagers and kids to get interacted with them. Those programs are sometimes held in community halls, held in parks, which is a good area for getting the positiveness, because it's a park, greenery, it's all good. And believe me, those programs are very fruitful and beneficial because the elders spread the love, spread the experience to those children, and for them, it's completely something new because they haven't seen that age 50, 70, 80 years ago. And they get the stories and, based on their experience, they try to guide the children of what is best to them. So in these ways, we try to support each other community members through these programs and these institutions.
Wonderful, wonderful. I particularly like work amongst elderly people, increasingly getting into that bracket myself, so that interests me. How can faith provide individuals with coping mechanisms to navigate stress, adversity, and emotional challenges?
Now, faith provides a sense of meaning and purpose, which envelops the hope and optimism. So, hope and optimism. Why? Because the faith, people with faith, they believe that there is a higher support or a higher purpose who is supporting them in their hope and optimism. Now, with this support, they try to, with the minds, they try to overcome all the hardships, and that helps them. And of course, we have a lot of stories and real life experiences that we share, and especially with the social gatherings and social programs that we share, that motivates the other person to bring that to give him that hope and optimism over there. Now, His Holiness, our spiritual leader, has a lot of emphasis on the tranquility of mind, okay, and basically to keep the mind balanced so it can fight the toxicity. Now, let's take COVID as an example. COVID, we all know what we went through. And I'll just speak about a couple of things that we did in our community is it was centralized, okay? And we had throughout the day, because everyone was at home, some people were out of work, some were working from home. The main challenge in COVID was the mental health. People were working, I was working from home, but I had a challenge with my mental health. I was stressed sometimes, sitting at home all day, not going out, all those challenges. Now, what these kinds of program did is throughout the day, frequently you had the online programs, recordings that you could watch at a specific time. So let's take just an example that, say for 7:30, I had the recitation of Quran. Okay, I can recite Quran, but it gave a different belonging or a connection when I had that online, and I knew that at 7:30 the complete Dawoodi Bohra's community in Melbourne are going to be watching the same thing. So still it gave a connection within the community, even physically we were separated. So that's how that hope keeps on building up with faith, and that optimism keeps on building up.
Thank you. That's a very comprehensive answer. I think one of the problems that all human beings face is the sense of, well, what's life all about? Why are we here? What's our purpose? What's our reason? Faith does provide a higher purpose often, or a divine plan, and gives individuals a sense of meaning. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. So the higher purpose always helps people view the life events as part of a larger narrative. So it's not specific, it's a part of a larger narrative. Now, I'll just speak about 2 points. One is, often the higher purpose comes with a sense of responsibility, and they understand that sometimes the events that happen in life do not have immediate answers, but probably throughout time it unfolds a greater plan. So that's one thing. And second thing is that because of that higher purpose, it always keeps you motivated and allows you to strive for your goals with passion and dedication. Because the idea is that it always keeps you within that circle of hope and eases the grief. Now, let me put it in a different way, that say for example, we had life losses, okay, and that was a really big challenge for everyone. But if you have faith, you know that is the faith is means, as I told you, it's a part of a greater narrative. So that helps you ease that grief for the dead ones.
Right. And of course, that's one of the huge issues that we face, that we all ultimately face an eternity. And how we cope with that knowledge in advance of it is very critical to our mental health naturally. Do you witness religious rituals and prayer that trigger the body's relaxation response and reduce stress? I mean, I don't know, singing, chants, prayer itself, or rituals that you have within your faith, do they benefit people? Do they relax people, calm people down, give them a sense of optimism and hope?
Yes. So let's start with that. Faith always gives individuals, it makes them or asks them to never give hope even in times of adversity. Now, His Holiness has also mentioned, our community leader, that whenever a door is shut, another door opens. So that hope and optimism should continue. For an immediate, if you look at it immediately at a short goal or a short time, you might find that it's a little bit challenging, but on a longer term, it is definitely going to give you, things are going to fade away and better days are going to come. Now, faith emphasizes love, kindness, passion, which will foster an environment where improvement and healing can occur. Now, in terms of hope and optimism, let me state an account over here. Once Prophet Isa or Jesus met Prophet Yahya or John the Baptist. And Yahya asked Prophet Isa that, why are you smiling? Don't you fear the wrath of the Lord? And Prophet Isa asked him that, why are you so frown? Don't you believe in the Lord's mercy? So both the prophets both had their arguments. So the Lord sent the archangel Jibril, and with the Lord's judgment, that the one dear to me is the one who smiles. So with faith, you always have hope. You always look forward to the Lord's mercy or whatever optimism that it brings to you. And with that, it keeps you moving on and on.
That's a beautiful thought, isn't it? You're never alone.
You're never alone.
You're always in company, in an uplifting presence.
Yes.
To put your feet on higher paths. Thank you. It's a beautiful analogy.
Thank you.
What are the sorts of teachings in Islam that help people to regulate their emotions and guard against negative emotions such as anger, resentment, jealousy, hatred? What are the sorts of teachings that help us to combat those feelings, those negative ways of being?
Now, faith always leads you to prayers, different forms of prayers, different sorts of prayers, and prayers always nourish your mind. That's the main thing over here. And it allows you to live in the present and focus at and brings your attention on the spiritual matters in the present. Now, when with these prayers, you always feel that you are connected with a higher being, and because of that higher being, it helps you counteract the negative thoughts and bring the positive thoughts, because it keeps on, that hope and optimism is always there. Likewise, in our rituals, of course, yes, they are the 5 prayers in a day in the Islamic faith. And similarly, we have something called munajat, which is supplication in a verse form. And it has a separate melody or a separate tune, or how you recite that one. Now, in terms of melody, I would just like to read you a philosophical statement, where 2 statements, in fact. In one of the books, it's mentioned, then there are rhythms and melodies that transport people from one state to another and change their outlook from one pole to its opposite. And there's one more statement which says, there are also rhythms and melodies which calm the vehemence of rage, dissolve enmity, and bring about peace and create amicable friendliness. So these kinds of melodies that are produced in the prayers bring that effect to the mind. So I think so. This is just one example, but yes, definitely people look forward to prayers where they feel that they are engaged with the higher being.
Right, okay. In what ways do you believe that your faith helps people to feel better about themselves and their sense of identity?
Our community leader has always talked about thanking the Lord even in the dire circumstances. Even in the dire circumstances, you always have something that you can be thankful to. That itself relieves a lot of stress or anxiety from your mind, because now you're looking at the positive things that you have rather than looking at the things that you don't have or you have missed. Now, also, I'll put this into 2 parts. One is a self-behavior or self-control on your behavior, and one is related to society, where it's related to some another person. Now, what you do and how you behave, it's completely upon you. Like, so for example, if I miss something, okay, it's not going to affect somebody, it's just going to affect me. So how do I behave in that particular situation is something important that we need to learn. And one thing is gratitude. That is very important, especially after COVID. It's really important to see in that way if what things we still have with us. Now, by this, when you have that gratitude, you try to remove that negative thoughts that you have because you are looking at the positive side of it. This is from a personal perspective. Now, if you're talking about this from a society perspective, where you are interacting with different people in the society, different groups, there is a saying called in Arabic called "Ahsin ila man asa ilayk," and it means do good to who have wronged you. Now, this is a challenging situation,
Certainly is.
and but it's there for our betterment, for our betterment of our mental state. So when you do good on those people who have wronged you, it's really challenging, because the first step of that for doing good is to remove your negative thoughts, to forgive that person by heart, and then only you can take the second step of doing good. So until you don't have the thoughts, you'll never do good to the person who has wronged you. Now, the second step is benevolence, which can only happen after you have completed the first step. And when you do good, you have a complete calmness of your mind, because you have done good to somebody and you feel good about that, even though that person has wronged you. So, personal perspective, how you behave yourself and with the society, these are very important things that the faith teaches us to do, by which we can have that mental support.
Thank you. That has been wonderfully insightful. I
Thank you.
really appreciate your comments and your wisdom in passing on these notions of Islam and the benefits to our mental health. Obviously, Islam is rich with essential guiding principles, appropriate directives and models of excellence for the promotion of mental health and the realisation of a meaningful quality of life. Thank you, Mustafa, for your insightful comments and sharing your understanding of mental health and Islam. And I would just like to say that academically the evidence seems clear. This is a topic that has been researched in many papers by many psychologists, many academics and scientists. And most of those, in fact 80%, according to one study who did a research study of all the different academic papers on this issue, do believe that faith is essential to one's good mental health. So I think there's a lesson there for all of us who are concerned about our mental health, our mental well-being, that if you have the capacity to believe in some higher power, some inspiration or force beyond yourself that leads you to a higher understanding of your purpose, you will be well served. Thank you very much.